the Pooch Parenting Podcast, a podcast for parents with dogs. I'm Michelle Stern, a certified professional dog trainer, mom, and former teacher. Living with kids and dogs at the same time can feel like a circus. I know because I lived it too. Join us as we interview a variety of experts and parents to discuss topics that will make parenting with dogs easier, safer, and less chaotic. Also, you can love living with your dog again. I'll always keep it real, which might even mean that you hear the messiness of life in the background on occasion, but at least you know you're not alone. If you're pregnant and have a Velcro dog who follows you everywhere, panics when you leave the room, or constantly needs to be touching you, you are not alone. Many dogs form deep attachments to their pregnant owner, but this can become a challenge once the baby arrives. After all, you need to sleep, feed, and care for your newborn without a dog glued to your side. Today's episode is dedicated to two of my clients, Lauren and Alyssa, who are expecting a baby soon. They have a Velcro dog. And so I wanted to support clients who are in their shoes and discuss some of the reasons dogs can become hyper-attached during pregnancy, the potential risks this can create once baby arrives, and most importantly for my clients like them, how you can start preparing your Velcro dog now so that the dog feels safe, secure, and comfortable being separated from you when needed. Whether your dog struggles with anxiety, follows you from room to room, or whines when you close the door, I will walk you through practical steps to help your dog adjust before baby arrives. It is very common for dogs to become super attached to a pregnant parent during that stage. And there are a variety of reasons why. And I wanted to point a few of them out just to give yourself a little bit more empathy for the experience that your dog is going through while you are growing a new human. So first of all, it's important to acknowledge that your body is changing, your shape is changing, your scent and your hormones are changing quite significantly, and your dog notices all of those things. So your dog may want to spend a little more closeness with you as your body is being modified over time. Also, a lot of people who are pregnant are having more resting periods, and that can invite closeness for a lot of dogs who really enjoy snuggling near you or making sure you're okay. If you're spending more time on the couch or in bed or feeling poorly, even leaning over the toilet, your dog may be concerned about your well-being and might want to check in on you. Also, in many cases, I can speak for myself here, you may be experiencing some emotional changes during your pregnancy, and your dog might be wanting to check in on you and see how you're doing and if there's any support that they can offer to you. Pregnancy also does tend to shift your household routines. If you're feeling poorly, especially in the beginning of pregnancy, you may not be going out of the house quite as much, taking your dog out on walks, and that can disrupt your dog's self-regulation. Now, a final thing that I want to talk about, and I will be spending a little bit of time on it in this episode, but I do talk about it in other episodes as well, is the concept of separation anxiety. So when we're trying to figure out if your dog is being a Velcro dog or just a clingy dog or a hyper-attached dog, it is really important that we actually have a slightly bigger conversation first to figure out if your dog might be experiencing what we call separation anxiety, which is actually a panic disorder. Because if your dog is experiencing separation anxiety and has trouble being separated from you, that's a very different course of action that we need to take to support your dog than it would be if your dog just feels a little bit left out. And so this can become a problem once your dog arrives because separation anxiety involves quite a rigorous set of training protocols, which could be very, very difficult if you have a newborn, a baby, or a toddler. Now, I will recommend, I'm going to mention her now. I will mention it again later in the episode. There is a program that you can look for. I highly recommend looking for a specialist called a CSAT, Certified Separation Anxiety Specialist. Certified certified separation anxiety trainer. These are all certified through my good friend Milena DiMartini, who developed an amazing protocol for supporting dogs who have separation anxiety. And no matter where you live, all separation anxiety specialists do their work remotely over Zoom. They're not there when they are coaching you through the problem. So you don't need to worry that you might live too remote or that a specialized trainer doesn't live in your area, because they serve all of their clients over Zoom, actually the same way that I do. I see my clients over Zoom as well. So if your dog really has a panic disorder, which would include things like panting, drooling, defecating, destruction, trying to break out of crates, when you are not there, when you are not in view, that is something really serious. And I invite you to look at the show notes to get a link so that you can find a CSAT who can support you. And the sooner you do that, the better, because this is a very difficult thing to work on alongside of a newborn. Okay, I'm going to leave separation anxiety aside, and let's just assume for the rest of you that your dog is just extra clingy, or is the kind of dog that we would call a Velcro dog. I want to make sure that you understand why this can become problematic once your baby arrives. First of all, if you may have some safety concerns. So if your dog is always following you around the house, this can pose a tripping hazard. I know this might seem obvious, but I really want to point out everything, because a lot of people don't know what they don't know. And I want to point out all of the potential challenges here. If your dog is following you around, especially at night, when you're up feeding the baby, trying to burp the baby, doing diaper changes, if your baby has colic symptoms or similar crying bouts during the night, and you're pacing around your house, having a dog that is attached at your hip can be dangerous, because you might trip on them. You are sleep deprived and tired, and you might be pacing around in the dark or very low light scenarios. And it is very possible for you to easily trip on your dog in that case. Your dog can also interfere during feedings, which can be very annoying, because I breastfed my daughter, who's my biological child, and I bottle fed my son, who is adopted. And both of those types of feeding, no matter how you feed your child, there's a learning curve in the beginning. When you first start trying to feed your child, it's not easy. Some babies have trouble latching onto a bottle. Some babies have trouble latching onto the breast. And having a dog that is what we call a nudge, is just in your face, in your space, poking their nose towards you, can just be super annoying and frustrating. And I don't want you to have negative feelings towards your dog just because they are needy. We need to come up with ways that we can mitigate these things before they irritate you or before they become troublesome and interrupt your ability to feed your baby. There are significant sleep risks if your dog cannot be separated from you at night, especially if your infant is co-sleeping with you, or is sleeping in a bassinet next to your bed. Regardless, if your dog is loose in the same room that your baby is sleeping, that's an unsafe situation. And so when you have a dog that has a very hard time being away from you, there are sleep risks. And I don't want to get into it in detail here, because it's really quite depressing, but there are quite a number of very sad scenarios in which dogs have harmed or killed infants at night when parents are sleeping. So let's just not go there. And what I would like for you is to have your dog contained or not in your room. But contained is fine. They can still be in your room if they can be safely contained and limited in their access to your baby. I also want to just point out the obvious, that your dog can be really stressed out. If there are times when you have to separate them and you haven't prepared them ahead of time, your dog will have increased stress. You will have increased stress, and none of that is going to be good for you as a parent trying to raise a baby. So, what are some early steps that you can take to encourage healthy independence for your dog? Now, I'm not suggesting that we're going to change your dog's personality and that we're going to make your dog be totally independent, not need you anymore, and that your dog will no longer want to spend time with you. I am not suggesting that's even possible, although with some dogs it could be. My goal here is to just help you use tiny little increments of time, training sessions, etc., games, where we can help your dog to just be comfortable, not connected to you, not right next to you all the time. This can be really important. The two clients that I am dedicating this episode to, their dog has trouble with children in general, and they have a robust social network of friends who like to come and visit, and a lot of their friends now have children. And so having a dog be able to be separated isn't just going to help you in your parenting journey, but it can also help you to guarantee the safety of your friends' kids. It can also reduce the stress of your own dog if you have visitors who come over that have children, because sometimes dogs don't love your kids, honestly, or other people's kids. And we want your friends to be able to feel safe visiting. Otherwise, you're going to always have to go somewhere else. And I am sure that that isn't really the life that you had imagined living with your dog. You wanted your dog to be part of everything, sort of your ride or die, right? You want to take your dog on vacation. But at the end of the day, if your dog can't be separated, this can be super difficult, especially if your dog has a hard time in public and there happen to be children there, for example. So we really do need to start encouraging your dog to start to feel a little bit more comfortable behind a baby gate, for example, or separated in some other way. I want to make sure that you understand that I am not expecting the moon. So I get clients who tell me all the time that if their dog is separated, such as put in the backyard or put in another room while they have guests over, the dog will bark nonstop. I don't think that's fair to your dog. I think it's really stressful, and I'm not advocating to put your dog in such a level of distress. I don't think that that's fair. So we have to work in small increments at the level your dog can handle. Because if your dog is having a really hard time and barking all the time, that's not something that I'm comfortable with. It's like letting a baby cry it out. I'm not comfortable with that either. And so what we want to do is we want to have very short and structured separations. So for example, you can start to put your dog behind a baby gate, and then you just leave and go pee real quick. Because even if your dog is slightly distressed while you just go use the bathroom, you know that you're coming right back. And we have to teach your dog to understand that you're coming right back, because such a short absence of as little as 1 minute, we know that that's not going to do lasting damage to your dog under most circumstances. Remember, we're not talking about separation anxiety here. We are literally talking about dogs that just really want to be by your side all the time. So there is a difference between a panic disorder and a dog that is just frustrated or, having a bit of a hard time just because you stepped away. Those are two different things, right? A protest, a little temper tantrum is not the same as a panic reaction. So I will guide you just briefly. Of course, if you want like real training support and a training plan, please reach out and work with me one-on-one or join the Pooch Parenting Society where we have more support. But I do want to guide you briefly through a few steps that we can do here. I do also want to encourage you to reward and reinforce calm behavior when the dog is not attached to you. You can use really cool technology, such as a remote treat dispenser. One that I like is called the Treat and Train, and I have a link to that in the show notes. And what you can do there is you can have this treat dispenser on the other side of a baby gate, maybe at the end of a hallway where the dog can't see you. And when the dog is calm, you can press a little button and the dispenser on the other side of the house drops a treat out. And then the dog will leave. Maybe the dog is standing at the baby gate looking at you, and they will go and leave a little bit, go get the treat and come back. And this is great because what you're doing is you are rewarding the dog at a distance for being calm away from you. And this is how we slowly can start to build comfort around that level of distance. I think that's really important. So using a remote treat dispenser, such as the Treat and Train, is one example of how you can create positive associations with having your dog behind a baby gate, or putting them in a crate, or in a playpen, or in a separate space. And there are other things that you can do as well, such as, for example, maybe your dog gets a bully stick a few times a week, or has maybe a beef cheek roll, or some other type of really nice chew, a horn or a hoof, or some other type of natural chew that the dog enjoys. And maybe what you do from now on in small increments is the only time the dog gets those things is when they are behind a baby gate. So we're trying to make that to be a positive experience. We can use baby gates or barriers in a relatively stress-free way when we start to introduce them for very short periods of time. Like I suggested, maybe going to use the restroom, or maybe you put the dog behind a barrier so that you can go drain your boiling pasta into the colander in the sink when it's finished cooking. These are going to be real life experiences and real life times when possibly you might need to have your dog separated from you. If you have your infant in the kitchen and you know that you're going to have to turn your back to wash dishes, or rinse the lettuce for your salad or whatever, you can't watch your dog and baby at the same time if your back is turned. And so using a baby gate or a pen or a crate, but please only use a crate for short times. This is not a replacement for giving your dog space. A crate is not my number one tool, although I do use it occasionally. My dog is actually in one right now for her nap so that I can record this episode. Otherwise, she would be looking out the window and whining at squirrels. So I am removing that possibility of external stimulation for her so that she will take a nap. And this is going to be maybe a 30-minute crate session for her. So you can use it in those types of cases as well, of course. But you can use them for short periods of time and try to build it into your routine. If you're using the microwave to heat your coffee or tea, or if you need to take a shower, that would be maybe when your dog is ready for something of up to 5 minutes of distance from you. We could do that. Let's see. We want to help your dog have cues. We can put on cue, let's go behind the gate. And you can say this every time so that the dog doesn't feel like you're tricking them or anything like that. It is important that we help your dog to know that this is going to be a good thing and this is going to be a temporary thing. Your dog won't live back there the whole time because you love your dog and you want to spend time with your dog. But there are times that you want to have safety, and I often talk about exploded diapers as an example of times when you need to separate your dog. I know it sounds gross, but if you'd walked in my shoes, you would know why I mentioned it. So that's something that's important. There are other kinds of enrichment activities that your dog can work on and do while they're behind a barrier as well. And I do have links to some of those in the show notes as well. You can find the show notes on poochparenting.net/episode 91. Okay, so preparing for real life transitions. There are a few things that I think are really important. I would love for you starting now to start to practice bedtime routines where your dog is not in your bed under most circumstances. If your dog has to sleep in your bed, then please reach out to me so that we can discuss how to keep your infant safe, because your dog on your bed can easily access a bassinet that is at a similar height. That makes me very nervous. But having new bedtime routines, possibly where your dog is not so connected to you, doing that ahead of time before the baby comes is quite helpful. You can also do little training games that are very brief where we practice one or both parents separating from the dog in order to respond to recordings of baby sounds that might be in another room. So maybe you leave your phone in another room playing baby sounds and then you go respond to it. And maybe as part of your response to that baby sound in the other room, we say to the dog, let's go behind your baby gate or it's pen time and I have to go see the baby, or however you want to do it. I'm tending to the baby, put it on cue. And feel free to message me and tell me if you have a cute baby cue that I can share with clients in the future in another podcast episode. I would love to hear about it. But you can start to do things that you will be doing. If you don't want your dog following you into the nursery, then practice going into the nursery and perhaps put a baby gate on that nursery door. And the dog can certainly look at you and talk. You can talk to your dog while you're inside the nursery. I like to keep a jar of treats in the changing table. It's something I'm a huge fan of. And that way you can always toss treats over the baby gate to your dog for being calm on the other side. And I would love for you to start working on planning for postpartum changes. If you're the main caregiver of your dog and you know that postpartum, you're going to be focusing more on the baby, we need to shift who takes the dog out more, who exercises the dog, does potty outings, feeds the dog, etc. And if we can shift some of that attachment from you to another caregiver, that can alleviate some of the challenges that you might experience. And it will certainly alleviate some of the guilt that you're feeling as well. Because if your dog was your constant sidekick before, and now you're focusing on the baby, there are certainly going to be some big feelings about that, which are totally normal. Change is hard. I know this. Your dog might bark at first. We really do need to figure out, again, and I said this before, but we need to make sure that this is not a panic response. But if you take small steps now, it will make big changes later. I think this is really important. And I think that it's important for me to tell you straight up that your dog can still absolutely feel loved and have a rich, wonderful, fulfilling life if they have to be separated from you sometimes, because sometimes you're just too tired and overwhelmed. You have too many visitors coming over that it's just very difficult to manage a dog in those circumstances without the use of a barrier to give you a little bit of a break. Please seek professional help, such as a CSAT, certified separation anxiety trainer, if you need one, or work with a dog and child specialist who really gets how hard your life is with dogs and babies, and get the support that you need to help transition your dog ahead of time. And finally, I'm going to close with this. Please celebrate every little step of progress. If you get even a few moments where your dog isn't barking separated, please celebrate that. And then we can build on it a little bit. Build on it slowly. Don't overdo it. Don't go too fast, or you will have some regressions. But I just want to cheer you along, be your cheerleader here. Again, please don't miss the show notes. I have some related product suggestions, safety and management equipment, such as baby gates and pens that I love the most, and some enrichment and chew ideas that your dog might enjoy while they are behind a barrier. I hope if you have a Velcro dog, you found this episode helpful. Feel free to reach out to me and let me know your thoughts. Take care and congratulations. Thank you for listening to the Pooch Parenting Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and leave a review. But even better yet, tell a friend. Are you in some moms groups, perhaps? Or maybe you're friendly with your pediatrician. Please let them know that resources like this exist, because the information that I share with my people goes beyond what most baby books offer, and a lot of parents need support. You'd be doing them a favor. Thanks again. Have a great day.